This episode of NSCTV is brought to you by Leonora AAA, Bushrangers Brotherhood, Gilba Project Management, Geelong Firearm Courses, Hunters and Shooters Society of Australia, Ballarat Arms and Military Collectors Society, the Combined Firearms Council of South Australia, Auto Scratch, and Killside Outdoor Store. And welcome to another episode of NSCTV, and thank you to our patient supporters and our sponsors for making this possible. In this episode, we speak with Tony Dobron, who's a candidate for the Freedom Party at Victoria State Election in the seat of Melton, which is in Melbourne's west, which is going to become one of the most important seats for shooters at the election. So stay with us. We're Tony Dobron, the candidate for the Freedom Party for the Melton District. How are you doing, Tony?
I'm doing very well, Neil, and how are you? And thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Thanks for coming on the show. So you're a candidate for the Freedom Party, which will be contesting the November Victorian State Election. And the Freedom Party itself, can you just tell us a bit about what it stands for?
Look, our mantra at the moment is families, jobs, and homes as the entire protection, and we see a lot of threats coming through, particularly in the last what have unfolded in the state of Victoria within the last 3 years. And the party itself was born around the entire what is known as the freedom movement, which is quite significantly taken off in the last 2 years. We're starting to see people stepping up to the plate and recognising and starting to come to the understanding that we've got a serious, what we've known as a government corruption problem.
Yeah, and I think the elephant in the room here are the lockdowns we've had in Victoria in particular.
Oh, it's a joke. I'm absolutely ashamed, really, really ashamed as to what's transpired and the overall behaviour across many different facets of government itself. Just there were a lot of unlawful overreach. We firmly believe in things like bodily autonomy as well. The individual should have the right to be able to pick and choose with their doctor as to what is right for their own personal health. So all this has been what we call trashed out the window in the last 3 years, to the point it appears as though we're going down a serious totalitarian dictatorship, police state type environment.
And certainly shooters are no stranger to government control and intervention. I mean, sometimes we need government to step in and do its job, and other times it has its own take on what its job actually should be. So, look, in terms of the party, you're fielding candidates in how many seats?
Look, we're trying to fulfil every district within the state of Victoria.
And of interest to us is the seat that you're actually the candidate for, which is the seat of Melton.
Yep.
In Melbourne's west. Quite a large electorate and quite an important one. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why it's important?
Look, there's a lot of... It's just on the outskirts of virtually being, I guess, a country-type environment. I think there's a little bit of a misconception about Melton, but at the same time, Melton is one of the largest growing urban sprawls in Victoria, if not Australia. And because of that, it's lacking in a lot of infrastructure at the moment, and that's where it appears that a lot of people at the moment are completely disenchanted as to what's going on within that area, particularly with the hospital. There's a massive need there for this hospital that should have been taken off the ground, and it's just, for some reason, it's put on the back burner. And
you said that you were telling me before that this is a seat that's actually quite important to Labor. The margin that it has shrunk, and it's one of the seats being watched by some of the other media as well.
100%. It's one of those seats which went in the last state election, it went in the opposite direction. The margin was reduced to 5%, whereby when they won the election in the landslide, they actually increased their margin in a lot of other seats. But Melton was one of those that actually went backwards. So the fascinating part to that tells us that the dynamics and the demographics of Melton is very much changing very, very rapidly. and there's a lot more sophistication going on in there as well.
Yeah, and certainly when it comes to shooters, there's quite a big population of shooters out that way, which is why we're latching onto it. And also the local member who, Steve McGhie, has made quite a few statements in the past that cause us a real concern about what his attitude towards shooters is, and also that he attacks shooting organisations, and he has done so in Parliament, and he actually describes himself as not pro-gun. Speaking of which, the great segue, Tony, you're pro-gun.
Very much so. I'm a licensed shooter. I've been a licensed shooter since the junior permit was released at the age of 12. So I love my hunting. I love my fishing. I get out. I do my deer hunting. I do my quail hunting. I do my duck hunting. I love hunting for hares as well. Thoroughly enjoy it, and it's a fantastic family activity. I'm blessed with 3 boys, and guess what we do? We go out. We go out together. We camp together, have that fire, and it's a fantastic family male bonding.
But so you're a pro-gun candidate up against an incumbent anti-gun MP in an electorate where there's a lot of shooters. In a very important election that Labor could lose. So I think that's a pretty good reason why any shooter who is watching this from Melton really needs to look for the Freedom Party on the ballot paper.
100%. And not only that, we've got the knowledge as to how the shooters should be a little bit more appropriately looked after as well. And the party upon themselves have actually given me the shadow ministry portfolio for police and emergency services. So that will certainly go down very interestingly down in a debate. And I actually ask any of the shooters that live in Melton, there will be a local debate held, which is driven by a reporter from The Age, and that is due to be held on the 8th of November within Melton. So I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to that.
And in terms of policies, at the moment, you don't have, well, there's really 3 policies on your website, but you were telling me that there is one coming our way soon.
Yeah, that is, 100%. I'm in the middle of actually writing that up, and I'll present that to the party, and we'll refine it and do whatever it is that we need. But rest assured, I think it'll be an awesome policy. And one of my first recommendations is maybe the removal of firearms being regulated by the police. I'll be looking at and entertaining the idea of shifting that across maybe to the Department of Justice, for the simple reason I'm of the firm belief that police should only ever worry about policing. They shouldn't have the power to regulate.
I mean, they need to be involved, I guess, to make sure that criminals don't get licensed, and that's fine. But everything else is a transactional thing, in which they just not geared up to do and don't do well, and becomes quite politicised. I think that's probably one of the biggest gripes that we have.
Do you run a business that supports the shooting industry? Take out a gold, silver or bronze sponsorship with the NSC to get your logo on our videos.
So how do people vote for you, Tony?
The District of Melton is a lower house seat, so it'll be on the white ballot. Right now, as I understand, there's 5 candidates. But look, the candidacy ballot closes on the 4th of November, is my understanding. So there may be 1 or 2 that still may potentially come through, and that remains to be seen. But my name will certainly be on the white ballot paper for the Freedom Party of Victoria.
Okay, so then I think that gets you have to number it 1 through to whatever. You have to number every box 1 through to 5. So the vote you 1, and then 2 might be your second choice, third choice, and probably put the greens last or whoever you want last.
Correct.
But the important thing is
you've nailed it. Sorry, Neil, you've nailed it.
So the important thing is put yourself, Tony Dobson, Freedom Party at 1, and the rest. Provided you number every other box, it becomes a valid vote. And with the other paper, the large ballot paper, which will be God knows how long. Usually it's about a metre wide because there's so many parties in the upper house. They can vote for Freedom Party above the line.
Yep, absolutely. So they'll be able to vote Freedom Party above the line, along with other major parties as well, and Freedom Parties of the like. And we'll release that information accordingly as we get closer towards the election as well, as to which way you should go. But let's break some of the myths. Ultimately, I'm a very old-fashioned. I'm not a career politician. I'm more about the representative. I'm here to defend and represent the people of Melton.
So if people want to find out more about the Freedom Party, they can obviously go to your website at freedomparty.net.au, which is here, and they can contact you with the details that are on the screen. So thank you, Tony. I really appreciate your time. And
no, thank you so much. A pleasure, and pleasure any time. Absolutely, any time. I thoroughly enjoyed that brief discussion point that we had, and I certainly hope the people of Melton, particularly the shooting fraternity, certainly tune in and hope they appreciate what they hear.
Sure. And I think the important thing is, if you're a shooter in Melton, or even if you're not in Melton, but you do know other shooters in Melton, tell your mates.
100%.
Get them to watch this video, and then they'll know who you are and why they should vote for you. So
100%. Absolutely. Flick me an email. By all means, reach out to me. We need volunteers as well. It'd be awesome if I can get a range of at least 30 volunteers to be able to cover the seat from the moment we start the pre-polls, which will be about a week and a half out before the election, right up to the election day. There'll be roughly about 13 to 14 seats that need to be covered. And if you're prepared to come out and give us a helping hand, I tell you, I'll be very, very grateful. And we've actually got a chance to actually topple this. I firmly believe that we're in with a chance to win it. I'm in it to win it. And I'm putting my hand up for it.
Yep. Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of NSCTV, and don't forget to share this with your mates, especially those who might be shooters in the city of Melton, and subscribe to our YouTube channel now. We'll see you later.